Um, January 26, 2019, 6:31 p.m. my time on the West Coast, Pacific time, and a lot of earthquake activity to talk about out there this evening, and some large-scale activity to mention, worthy, I guess, notable earthquakes right here on the famous Pacific Ring of Fire. And some of these earthquakes are some deep, deep tremors out there, folks. We haven't seen this type of deep activity and of this multitude and magnitude in quite some time. I could definitely call this a unrest of activity on the Pacific Plate at this moment. And this here is just over the last 24 hours. So I'll go ahead and keep it at that for now without bringing back some other older earthquakes. But let's go ahead and start out down here on the southwest part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, down by Fiji. A lot of earthquake activity recently, just today, and a lot of deep activity. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past and your earthquake awareness is somewhat high, as far as like knowledge goes, Fiji is a really good, or I shouldn't say really good, but a spot along the Pacific Plate where we see a lot of deep earthquake activities. That's what I'm trying to say. It's no stranger to deep earthquake activity out there. And we've seen it today, and most recently, some large earthquakes today popping off down there. Let me see here what this last one was. I believe this 4.9 that just struck here just a minute ago. There we go, 606 kilometers below the surface. Okay, that is a deep, deep earthquake. 5.2 that occurred prior to that, 586 kilometers below the surface. Check out this 4.7, 547 kilometers below the surface. A lot of stuff going on down there, folks. A lot. So let's not clutter. I do want to come back here and bring back a couple more days of activity within this area. But after I go through and discuss the earthquakes within the past 24 hours here. We are seeing some surface quakes here following all that movement, but not a lot. Not a lot of movement and activity on the surface following these deep earthquakes. If anything, the deep earthquake activities are extending now over towards the Indonesia Islands region here. A 6.2 earthquake, 357 kilometers below the surface, actually occurring near Solomon Islands there, pretty close to the Solomon Island area. That's a deep one. So this deep earthquake trend, but that's an older one. If you notice, that's the red rings indicating some older earthquake activity. Lighter color, similar to like this 5.8 over here, 5.2. The pinkish type color rings are kind of medium, roughly about 12 hours old, while these red dark colored rings are indicating almost the 24-hour window of dropping off the globe here, while the whiter, completely white rings indicating most recent earthquake activity within the last couple hours, and of course the green color, like this 3.3, indicating the most recent earthquake that has taken place here. See, there's that 4.9, which has just taken place a short time ago. But yeah, getting back to the deep earthquake activity here, it kind of started out over here with this 6.2, right? At what, 357 kilometers there? And since then, since that 6.2, which is a pretty good size earthquake, right? We haven't really seen a whole lot of adjustment up here on the surface. We've seen a couple 4s right here. A 5.7, I guess that's somewhat of a adjustment that happened just to the east of there. Let me go back on this time frame and see which one occurred first. I guess I could, there we go. So that 5.7 kind of occurred first. And then that 6.2, well, no, I take that back. We're going backwards here. I got this backwards. 6.2 occurring first, while that 5.7 happening afterwards. I guess I could check it just like this too, right? Click on it, and I can check the time, UTC time, 1520. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. 3:51 is UTC time. while that other one has just disappeared on me. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, folks, that earthquake that was up here, you know, happening shortly after this 6.2, this deep earthquake that happened there. So, you know, with these larger, deeper earthquakes occurring just well southeast of the region, I'm expecting to see a little bit more adjustment, folks. You know, and it's hard to say exactly where we're looking at. You know, a lot of times I will mention these quiet zones up here, right? If we're not seeing any type of earthquake activity, those are most likely the areas to watch here. We haven't seen a lot of activity in between, say up here around Japan, down through the Indonesia Islands region here. This little area right here is pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of activity up there right now. And meanwhile, to the west, further to the west into the Indonesia Islands region, we're just seeing some fives. Moderate fives there, right? 5.8. That's a pretty good size earthquake right there. So a little bit of adjustment there, following that deep 6.2. But we're looking at today, right? All this activity occurring today: 4.9, 5.2, and a 4.7. What's going on down there? Way down there in the earth, right? Almost 600. Some of them 606 kilometers below the surface there. We could really see a much larger earthquake here happening really soon, folks, with this type of movement down below. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly where. We did have a 4.8 that occurred. You see now some of those other earthquakes are showing up, but we did have 4.8 that occurred at the surface level, close to the surface, in between these two deep points out here. So that's good, right? A little bit of release of pressure, but I don't think that we're gonna that's gonna be it. And I'm not for sure if we're gonna see something much bigger in this area or another quiet zone up here. Check this out up here off the Russia area. They did have 4.5 up here, which is fairly new earthquake inland into the region. Let me get an exact coordinate on this here. This is Nera, Russia. I guess that's how you pronounce it. N-E-R-A, Nera, Russia. That's somewhat of a surface quake up there, but for the most part, pretty quiet out here in the Aleutian Islands region and stretching over here, you know, towards the Russia area. So that might be another area to watch, folks. You know, like I say, we haven't seen this type of deep earthquake activity in quite some time with this multitude and magnitude. So just be on guard. The West Coast, you know, it's always a hot spot. Continued pressure. You can see a lot of pressure building up out here in the west. And it has been for quite some time, for the past week or so. So, you know, let's go over here to this other map here and I'll show you guys. Let's go over here to Caltech websites. Right here. We've got a little earthquake down there in Southern California already from the USGS, or not USGS, it's actually the, yeah, USGS Caltech website. Let me go down here and see if I can find it. Hold on a second here. Bear with me. Interact. There we go. Okay, let's click on this most recent earthquake, and then we'll get back to the other earthquakes taking place up there in Northern California. We had seen a little swarming happening last week, right around Brawley, Salton Sea region. That has since died out completely, which is probably a good thing. But these earthquakes up here right now, hold on one second here. You can see that just south of Salton Sea region. Couple red squares right there, right? Some red earthquakes, or last hour earthquakes occurring south of the Salton Sea region. These are, well, a 3.4 near Imperial, and a smaller 2.1, and another 1.2 occurring within those regions there, of those little red squares going on there. And by the way, what I'm talking about by stress is the amount of earthquakes that have been happening in California and the region seems to be on an increase, folks. Like I say, a lot of pressure seems to be up here on the west coast with a numerous amount of quakes happening. Let's go back here. I'm going to show you guys the last week here of activity on the west coast region. But first I want to zoom in, get rid of this. Well, let's just go zoom in here real quick. It's been a long, fun day. Like I say, I've had my nephew out here. I enjoy the guy, but man, he is crazy and wild sometimes. So let's bring in the last 7 days of all magnitude earthquakes. Okay, and that's going to flood the screen a little bit, but we should be able to see it. Oops. Ah, gosh darn it. Okay, there we go. So, you know, even though the circles are roughly about the same size, there's a lot of earthquakes that have taken place out here within the West Coast region. We're looking at just within this area. Well, let's zoom in a little bit on California so we don't get a bunch of Nevada in there. Well, that's going to completely cut it off. So I guess we'll have to include parts of California in here. But just within this region here, folks, I'm going to include San Diego area. 719 earthquakes within the past 7 days. 761, I'm sorry. How did I see 9? I'm not for sure. But and a lot of these are bunched up in different areas. Up here in the north, it's actually, you can kind of see like an area right where the Sacramento Valley ends up here towards Redding, in that mountain range there. Siskiyou's stretching over to the Sierra, and also in the coast there off of Eureka. A lot of activity, and also a lot of activity on these small fault systems. You know, these little fault systems up here in the mountains off of the San Andreas fault system, showing some earthquake activity. So that's why I'm saying a lot of fault systems showing, not major, but a lot. You know, a lot of earthquakes on almost every single fault system out here in California that we normally don't see a lot of activity on. You know, San Andreas, the creeping section down here that they call it, of course, seeing activity. That's not uncommon. It's pretty quiet in between Bakersfield and what's this other, Palmdale? Really quiet. Look at that. No activity out here within this region here, right? And that's locked, folks. That continues to be locked. And you know, that section right there is a spot to watch. No relief of pressure at all in that area over the last week. Nothing. Not even a couple small microquakes. While inland, we're definitely seeing a lot of activity near Ridgecrest and over in these other mountains right here. So it's almost like all the mountains, all the smaller fault systems, all the hot spots for earthquake activity, definitely seen an uptick over the past week, except for the southern section of the San Andreas Fault section. The big one. Now I think it had something to do with all this relief and pressure, maybe down here on the southern part, the very southern part, where the San Andreas Fault section ends. Down here is where we're seeing a little bit of relief and pressure, right? With that swarming that happened in the Salton Sea area. I don't even know if you can call it relief, but the pressure has nowhere else to go, right? So it kind of swarmed up down here a little bit, and also on these other little fault systems, while the main one, I keep saying it, remains locked up here and loaded. And you know, one day it's this whole valley, or this whole area right here, is going to be woken up by a big earthquake. There's no doubt. You know, like I said, this proves it right here. There's no relief in pressure. The closest one is this little one, a 1.7 up here, but look at all the miles of fault system right here of the San Andreas Fault has shown no activity, and even down through here, through the Salton Sea area, where supposedly it ends down here and connects to the, or not connects, but well, I guess they do have it connected right there to the Brawley seismic zone right there. So yeah, it's just something to watch, folks. The this area over the next, you know, I don't know, a couple days or so, with this increase in deep earthquake activity, we could see something major out there happen. Fingers crossed that it won't, but definitely an area to watch. Just pretty crazy. let's go over here to the slow slip event page here, and I'll show you guys real quick here. Well, not a lot, folks, at least within the last 3 hours. Let's go over here there we go. Get rid of this, bring this down just a tad bit so you guys can see. That screen's a little bit too big. Just make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so last 48 hours, last 2 days here. Yeah, a little bit of slippage up there in Vancouver Island, right? Confined to mostly Vancouver Island area. A little bit extending down through Washington, parts of northern Oregon, and also into northern California as well. So, you know, no major area of slippage except for Vancouver Island region. And the slippage, what I mean by that is slow slip event activity occurring in the Cascadia subduction zone. That's that part way down there in the plate bound, or in the subduction zone. That's I guess it could be releasing pressure, you know, or at least, you know, it's hard to say, right? Because part of the plate system right there could be subducting underneath the North American plate, right? But, you know, what's happening towards the surface? Is pressure continuing to build up there as well? Because we're not seeing too many, well, you know, we're not seeing a whole bunch of large earthquake or moderate earthquakes releasing pressure up towards the surface. So it's hard to say, folks, when it comes to the slow slip event stuff, because I've seen it where we've had days of massive amount of slippage in one area, and then there's days of no activity, weeks of no activity, and nothing happens. So, you know, you can't say one way or the other if something's going to happen if we are seeing a slow slip event happen versus if we're not. You know, it's just, it's there's no science on if something's going to happen watching that. But I tend to lean towards the you know, the something happening if we are seeing an increase in activity in the slow slip event world. But as of today, in the last couple days, that doesn't look like it's massive. You know, there's no major slow slippage going on. So it is what it is, folks. You know, live seismograph stations up and running on the live stream right now. I got numerous stations keyed up. Couple ones I want to pay close attention to, or on this screen right here. I do like to keep a couple Yellowstone stations up there, and also Mendocino up here where I live. And also Mammoth Lakes right here as well. And of course the San Andreas Fault System near Hollister. I need to pick up one down south, which I always seem to have problems finding. But I'll keep looking until I find one. But in the meantime, folks, you know, let me extend this back here a couple days and show you guys while I can show you here in the last few days of activity. There's a lot of activity there, folks. A lot over the last couple days, right? And this goes to show you even the more pinpointed silent zone areas, right? Let's go back all the way here as far as this thing will go. And, well, pretty much there's a lot of deep earthquake activity, right? Most of that was today. Some surface quaking going on right there in between these two deep spots. A cluster of quakes, surface quakes over here towards Indonesia Islands as well. Some earthquake activity, right, in between this area that I was talking about, this quiet zone, but that's been quite a few days. An area that hasn't seen any type of movement, adjustment, activity is this area right in here, right off the Russia area, northeast of Japan region. You see what I'm talking about? In between this 4.7 right here and this 4.3. And just south of this 4.5 area, that quiet section here, subducting area right there on the Pacific Ring of Fire, Pacific Plate. This might be an area to watch, right? So I guess we'll see. And not a whole lot of deep, not a whole lot of surface quaking right here where the 6.2 took place either. You can see a little bit of activity over here towards the west of it, and just one or two to the east of it. But as far as within this region, geologically speaking, within this region here, we should have seen a little bit more surface quake activity up here. So, you know, I'm calling 2 hot spots out there to watch right now, where that 6.2 took place here, and also up here just northeast of the Japan region as well. So, you know, keep an eye out there, be prepared. Of course, always on the west coast. You know, it's just all these fault systems out here are wound up pretty tight out here on the west coast, and you know, it's just a matter of time before we start seeing something pop off. It may be in my lifetime, it may not even be in your lifetime, but the chances are that it's going to happen sooner than later, especially with all the activity going on. So yeah, you know, just have an earthquake plan, folks. Always be prepared. You know, it's just stock up on stuff. Yellowstone, let me check out Yellowstone here real quick. I think I checked that out earlier. It's not even worth mentioning because there's no activity at all popping up out there. No type of swarming going on, no microquakes, nothing like that. So relatively quiet, you know, if not completely quiet out there right now. So I'm not even going to show that on here. But in the meantime, folks, yeah, you know, it's just keep your eyes open. Let's see what happens over the next couple of days here with all this with this massive, deep, you know, multitude of deep earthquakes here is what I'm trying to say. That's it's just something we haven't seen in quite some time. That's like the 3rd time I've said it, but I mean it. We need to be on guard here for a much larger earthquake. You know, I cannot pinpoint exactly. I'm not going to say with 100% certainty because, you know, no one can actually predict earthquakes. You know, I'm sorry, but no one can. There's areas to watch, and that's as far as I go. That's as far as I go when it comes to predicting earthquakes, right? And I've already mentioned those areas to watch. So, in the meantime, have a good night, folks. If you are watching the update video, come on over to the live stream and say hi. Come hang out, chat out with the moderators and the viewers out there. So, peace out. Have a good night, folks. See ya.